Hello, my astrology friends. This is your astrological forecast for February 2026. And if you like the video, then press the like button and become a subscriber. It all helps to spread the word of astrology. In this video, I'm going to take an overview of February, what to expect from an astrological perspective. And then I'm going to look at each of the 12 zodiac signs, your sun sign, rising sign, for the month of February 2026. Okay, so let's get started with the overview. Now, February is a kind of a bit of a strange month. We've had a lot of impact going in, obviously, January, which has taken up a lot of time. And what I'd like to say, first of all, is that we've got some movements that are significantly happening in February to do with the planets. First of all, we do have a Mercury retrograde that happens right at the end of the month, about the 25th, 26th of February. Jupiter is also going retrograde through Cancer. It starts at 17 degrees and then ends at 15 degrees. However, around about the 4th, in fact, on the 4th of February, Uranus goes direct for the final time in the astrological sign of Taurus. So this should be quite a big aspect for you Taurians out there who have been waiting for this to happen for some time. The other big news, of course, and February is a lot of, as I say, a lot of planets moving, a lot of planets that have been stagnated or moving from one sign to the other. We've got the big news is on the 14th of February, Saturn moves into Aries, where it will remain for a couple of years. It does not go back to Pisces. It is done its transit through Pisces over the last 2.5 years. It is now going to be in Aries, and that is going to meet up with the planet Neptune that is also from last month gone into Aries. These two planets have been sort of traveling with each other for some time now, and they are still traveling in a conjunction. However, they're in another sign of zodiac, which is Aries, which is about new beginnings, conquering spirit. It's the start of spring in the northern hemisphere. It's an energy that is enterprising, forward thinking, but also Aries is ruled by Mars, so it can be a little bit unpredictable, a little bit sort of on edge at times. So from a political point of view, this might be a little bit of a challenging time of what's happening politically during this particular period. So look out for that. We've got Venus starting off in Aquarius and then moves into Pisces, which is really happy, exalted in around about the 10th. And we've got throughout the rest of the month, we've got Mars in Aquarius, which has a kind of revolutionary sort of spirit about it that can be a little bit unpredictable, but also very, very humanitarian. So you can already see that there's new movements that are occurring during this particular period. And this means that it's a significant month of development and change and insight from a political collective point of view, and certain individuals are going to benefit from this. Pisces, you are going to benefit because you now have Neptune and Saturn out of your own sign. Taurus, you're going to benefit because Uranus is actually moving forward in your own sign. Aries are going to feel like a little bit discombobulated at first, but they are going to settle with this energy well. So we start off immediately. The first sort of, for me, astrological significance is on the 3rd of February, which is famous for the sort of embolic when the sun is at 15 degrees in Aquarius, and then on the 4th Uranus goes direct, and then on the 6th Mercury enters into Pisces, where it will go retrograde towards the end of the month. So we've already got a really kind of busy week that just occurs in that first week of February. And then in the second week, we've got the 10th, Venus enters Pisces. Then we got on the 14th, the big one, Saturn enters into Aries, where it will remain for a 2-year period here, which is going to be very, very significant. Then on the 17th, we've got a new moon. This is at 28 degrees in Aquarius. And this is a solar eclipse. So, lot going on. And this solar eclipse is really interesting because you've got the factor of Uranus squaring this particular solar eclipse. And therefore, it's going to have quite an impact and be incredibly disruptive and unpredictable as well. Straight on the 18th, you've got the sun entering into Pisces that occurs straight away. And then on the 26th, Mercury will go backwards. It will go retrograde. So there's a lot kind of going on here. I forgot to say right at the beginning of the year, of February, on the 1st, we got full moon at 13 degrees in Leo. So, but that to me is not like the solar eclipse. The solar eclipse is incredibly kind of powerful because of the unpredictability of it. So you can already kind of see that there's a lot that's sort of being brought up to the surface, and we can kind of see this, in the news and out there in the media, what's sort of going on. There's a lot that's taking place, but I also think it's a time when, because the sun is in Aquarius predominantly. We've got Mars in Aquarius, we've got a bit of Venus in Aquarius, so there is a bit of optimism, a bit of vision that can come out of this if we're all inclined to look that way and living your life a bit more authentically, or having the vision of how you want to create your life going forward in the future. I think there's going to be a powerful symbolism going forward within this particular energy that's really kind of taking place. Okay, I'm now going to go into the 12 zodiac signs, and I'm going to start with Aries Sun and Aries Rising. So if you're an Aries Sun, listen to this, and if you're an Aries Rising, also listen to this. So you get to fundamentally listen to two, unless you're the Sun and Rising sign are exactly the same. Okay, so Aries, big month for you. Saturn on the 14th moves into your own sign. Self-discipline, limitations, the reality. How you put boundaries on yourself and other people around you is going to be crucial. You've also got Neptune there, which is making a conjunction. So there's idealism there as well. There's a need to break out of old patterns of behavior or old responses that can have an impact on you. And also, it is a period when you will feel like there's a kind of new sense of energy around you, a new impetus in life to put structure in place, to look at the long term rather than the short term. Your ruler, Mars, is in your 11th house, in your 11th solar house. It's all about friendships and hopes and dreams and wishes, and essentially what money you gain from if you're employed by another. But when Mars is in there, it means that you're very active in those areas. Suddenly you want to connect with people and you want to express your ideas. But because of the Saturn factor, you're in this sort of dilemma where you might be feeling much more reserved than you normally would. But you might find that the external aspects of it, i.e. that people around you are being more Saturnian or wanting to put responsibility and duty on you. You may not like that initially, but it's something that I think you've kind of got to get used to for this particular next couple of years. But obviously, when Saturn is now ingressed into your own sign, it means that you suddenly got this massive jolt that you're kind of going, well, what do I do with this? And it's getting used to it. It's not like this is how it's always going to be. It's just trying to get used to it. Okay, Taurus Sun, Taurus Rising. Significant thing on the 4th, of course, Uranus is moving direct in your own sign. It's at 27 degrees. So if you've got any planets at 27 degrees in Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, then there's an unpredictability about this, but at least things are moving forward. I think Taurians will be sort of quite happy with this, but also it's leaving a particular part of your life that is being very kind of unstructured, and feeling a little bit more kind of grounded through this, and not being flummoxed by the energy, the unpredictable energy of Uranus. Your ruler Venus starts off in Aquarius. That's around you about your 10th house, which is to do with your career and social standing and your aspirations. So there might be some good stuff that's been happening or going to happen, certainly at the beginning of the year, beginning of February. And then it will move into Pisces, which is your 11th house, connecting with others, shared values, a sense of diplomacy, bringing harmony, connecting in a very sort of creative way. So you can already see that there's a sort of bubble in here of quite nice stuff. The big date is, the 17th, because we've got the solar eclipse in your 10th house. But it's squaring your first house, the Taurus energy. So for me, that's a big one in terms of career. Around that time, it might things as a new start, or something happens around that time that puts you on a slightly different path to the one that you thought you were on. And that's really kind of magnified by the presence of Uranus as well, that creates this sort of change that, as I always say to my clients, look, if Uranus comes knocking, be open, don't try to control it. And Taurians like to know where they stand and like to control it. So you've just got to be kind of mindful of that. Around that time, the 17th, the 2 days before and 2 days after might be a little bit sort of all over the place for you, and therefore take stock. Try not to be impulsive or rush to make decisions. Okay, Gemini Sun, Gemini rising. Yeah, Mercury is the one that I'm really kind of looking at. Mercury's goes into your own 10th house on the 7th, and it's going to go retrograde at the end of the month, which can indicate a little bit of turbulence, or looking back at the career, or trying to sort out things from the past that you might find a little bit difficult, a little bit tricky. So just be kind of aware of that. I think Geminis are experiencing what I would say at the moment is a lot of Pluto energy in a positive way. So they're ready to transform, they're ready to kind of go forward, and they feel like they're in a position in life where things are looking quite good. But I feel like this particular month, it's like trying to make decisions regarding career is going to be a little bit tricky for you and hard work. And I think that it's about reflection and going back, rather than forcing yourself to make a decision just for making a decision. Here, Mars is also kind of shining quite brightly on you in your solar ninth house, traveling through Aquarius, and that's beaming its kind of positive energy and a kind of an adventurous spirit around you that I think is quite nice. And that's typified by the solar eclipse on the 17th as well. So new visions taking place, metaphysical studies, insights, education, a little bit of travel as well coming in at that particular time for you. Okay, Cancer, Cancer Sun and Cancer Rising. We got a solar eclipse on the 17th. We have to put that into the placement of you, because you're ruled by the moon. And interestingly enough, that circulates in the 8th house, which is the sort of, I call it the therapeutic house, the house of the skeletons in the closet, the house where we kind of investigate what the deeper meanings of life and what it means to all of us. And I think that's a really kind of powerful symbol at that particular time for you. It's Saturn that I think is the main thing. Saturn is moving into Aries on the 14th, but more importantly, it's moving into your 10th house, which Saturn enjoys being in. It's in its rulership. It can do something. It's a planet of work, and the 10th house is a planet of work and ambition and career. So it's obviously around about that time there's new starts to do with career, or there's planning, or there's you being setting the boundaries and being disciplined and being effective and having maybe even a higher status, or maybe even work just brings new responsibilities to you and goes, here you go, this is what you can do. You've also got Neptune in there, so there might be a much more a way of looking at things in a much more spiritual way coming up for you. I mean, these are long-lasting transits. Saturn is 2 years, and Neptune is up to 14 years. But when they go into that 0 degrees, they're at that powerful point, because you get this jolt of energy that suddenly goes, wow, okay, this is what's happening. So I think that's going to be a really kind of powerful aspect that's going to occur. We've also, on the 1st of February, we've got a full moon falling into your 2nd house. That's the financial aspects that might be looking at that and looking at it in much more detail, or things come into light that need to be looked at and decided upon, and decisions need to be made. And that will also be in conjunction with what's happening with Saturn. Okay, Leo Sun, Leo Rising. 1st of February, you have a full moon in your own sign around about 13 degrees. brings up to the surface. I like to think that full moons are beginnings and endings, or I should say endings and beginnings, that way round. But we've interestingly also got the solar eclipse, new moon, on in your seventh house, the house of relationships, that comes about on the 17th, and that's new starts for you in how you relate to other people and how they relate to you. There's quite a significance about Leos this month that's sort of taking place. Mars is also traveling in your seventh house, solar house. So, that is going to be not quite, it's not quite making a heavy conjunction, but it's with the solar eclipse, but it's certainly there. The solar eclipse is 28 degrees in Aquarius, but it's all with this Uranus square as well. So that middle of the month is really powerful in terms of relationships and generally understanding relationships and having a new way of looking at them. Very, very powerful for you, Leos, uh, in a lot of ways, which you'll be working with and trying to manage during this time. Okay, Virgo, Sun, Virgo rising. Yeah, you're so you got the main news for you is Mercury, your ruler. So on the 7th, it goes into your opposite sign of Pisces, which is the house of other people and relationships in general and how you get along. So there's a sort of understanding other people's points of view. There might be some buying and selling. There might be some insight. There might be a lot of one-to-one engagement with others. But then it does go retrograde in Pisces around about 26. So that means that you're going back on all of the things that you've gone through during the month. Quite a powerful kind of energy that's taking place there for you, Virgos. Saturn has now moved on the 14th, moves out of your seventh house, which I think you'll be quite glad of. There will be a kind of sense of not necessarily having to, put boundaries on other people as much, or maybe be less disciplined with yourself. But it moves into the eighth house, which is, a lot to do with, the hidden aspects and of life and the deeper aspects of life, but also to do with other people's money and investment in you and how they see you and other, whether it be energetically or financially, what they invest in you. And I think that's going to be quite powerful. Or you might be having to work with governments or working with people, big institutions that have, financial backing or needing to liaise with them. There's a lot of that energy coming up for you. Okay, Libra Sun, Libra Rising. Yeah, so Libra are doing quite well. Because a lot of planets are in the air signs, particularly Aquarius is a kind of fellow air sign like yourself, so it does rather well, and it's all in the playful fifth house. A lot of it, Venus at the beginning of the year, and Mars throughout the beginning of the month, and Mars throughout February. So there is a kind of a playful. But I think the big news for me is obviously on the 14th, where Saturn moves into your seventh house. Now the seventh house is exalted. Saturn in the seventh house is exalted, so it can work. So what's coming up for you next 2 years? Working with others, one-to-one relationships, understanding, being diplomatic, putting energy into one-to-one relationships to get something out of them. And if you do that, then you actually get long-lasting relationships, which for Librans is crucial to the development as a person. And that Saturn really kind of helps you to define yourself and have a strong identity of who you are and what you want. So Saturn really is very happy in the seventh house. Yes, it opposes your sun at some points, but that's only that gives you the reason of something to sort of that friction that sometimes human beings need. But I think actually it's really good. The other thing is, of course, Neptune has also moved into there, which slightly dilutes here. So we've got a bit of a contradiction going on, but Saturn will be the stronger of the two initially, because Saturn really likes to be in the seventh house. Okay, Scorpio Sun, Scorpio Rising. A lot of energy going into the home environment for you. Your traditional ruler Mars is in your fourth house. It really works on that level and is extremely assertive in getting things done, dealing with family relationships, dealing with people that are close to you, dealing with the more secretive aspects of yourself, and being working on your inner self, working on your inner journey, realizing your own inner truths. It's a really good way of looking at that. Also, Uranus goes direct on the 4th in your 7th house of relationships, so things might start moving on that side of things a lot more easier, or you might just feel that energy and that shift that goes, oh, hang on, there's something going on here. Because by the time we get into late April, that will have left that particular house, and that kind of signifies a very different tempo to relationships going forward for you. Okay, Sagittarius Sun, Sagittarius Rising. Jupiter is retrograde, has been for a while, will be until about the 10th of March, which is, of course, next month. It's, it's kind of it's in the middle of the sign. I think Sagittarius is going to be a bit quiet of recent for a lot of them. There's a bit of energy in the 3rd house with Mars going in there, traveling, so quite opinionated. You might feel very much you need to get your points across. The Saturn going into Aries actually really kind of helps you in a way, because it adds a little bit of structure to your social life, to your playfulness, to your to wanting to learn, outside interests, wanting to do new things. But it's a quieter month for a lot of Sagittarians, and that's not a bad thing, because next month Jupiter moves forward again, your ruler, and that brings out a very, very different energy. Okay, Capricorn Sun, Capricorn Rising. Okay, the first thing I want to say is your ruler Saturn obviously moving into Aries, and that's into your 4th house, which is the house of the home. Your family, your ancestors, your property. The secretive aspect of you, the private aspect of you, and there's work to be done. There's work of internal structures that need to be put in place. That will be over a 2-year period, but still, it's something that you will work on. Why do I do this? Why do I respond in this way? Where's my wounds? Where's my sense of security? Where do I get my little happiness internally? Those are things, and it could be that you want to study stuff like meditation or more introspection than you normally like. But certainly, it's working on their inner values, core values that are part of who you are and what makes you you. Okay, Aquarius Sun, Aquarius Rising, very, very busy. Venus at the beginning is in your own sign, but Mars is going to be obviously in your own sign throughout the month. 1st of February, full moon in your 7th house, relationships. There's significance around that. And then you've got the solar eclipse on the 17th at 28 degrees in Aquarius, squaring Uranus. Big, big month for you Aquarians. A lot going on. How the month begins and how it ends could be very, very different in terms of your lifestyle, you as a person, and your ideas of where you're going. Lot going on here. And my advice would be is, look, it's for a benefit, but it also means that it's sort of been building up for some time. But I feel with a lot, it's how they handle that solar eclipse on the 17th, because that it's like a crossroads, and which route you're going to kind of choose here. Put that to one side, then for a lot of Aquarians, it'll feel like, right, they're moving forward in life. Things are happening. Things are happening quickly, and they've got to be on top of it. And they've got to look after themselves as well. And they've got Jupiter in the 6th house, which can, but it's retrograde. And they're going to need to look after themselves over the next coming months. And finally, Pisces. Pisces Sun, Pisces Rising. Bye-bye 14th. Bye-bye Saturn. 2.5 years of structure, discipline, heaviness, work-orientated, reality. But it is going into your 2nd house, which is the house of finance. So there's a lot of focus on survival, on financial aspects that is taking place for you. Also, Neptune is joined in the party in your 2nd house, so you might look at different ways of earning money through more alternative means, particularly, I would say. There's a lot going on in your 12th house, which is the house of the subconscious, the unconscious, which allows you to deal with stuff that's been kind of bubbling up and actually dealing with it and facing it, so that you can kind of feel a little bit more secure with yourself. I think the Saturn factor is big. I think if it, for a lot of you, these last few months have felt like things have changed, and it's encapsulated that Saturn transit. It moving into your 2nd house just makes things a little bit more clearer in your own mind of where you're going and what you're doing. The solar eclipse hits your 12th house, so again, insights to do with the internal. And then the full moon on the 1st, that hits your 6th house, which is work, service, health matters, and stuff like that. Things coming up to the surface to do with that. But you know, a big month for Pisces because of the Saturn factor. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe and also like the video, and I'll speak to you all very, very soon. Thank you.